The castles of Gilles de Rais were built to endure war, but they endured something far quieter. Stone walls thick enough to stop cannon fire also stopped sound. Narrow staircases bent inward, not outward. Doors closed with weight and finality. What unfolded inside these walls did not resemble battle. It unfolded slowly, deliberately, and without witnesses. When Gilles de Rais returned from the campaigns of France, he returned intact. War had not diminished him. It had elevated him. His titles remained secure. His wealth expanded. His authority hardened. As Marshal of France, his name still carried the echo of banners and victory. His appearance betrayed nothing. Dark hair fell to his shoulders. His face was full, controlled, unreadable. Withdrawal from public life was interpreted as contemplation, not decay. His brief association with Joan of Arc belonged to an earlier chapter. He rode during the same campaigns, stood near the same standards, followed the same commands. Chroniclers recorded him briefly among the nobles who surrounded her improbable rise. Her fate unfolded publicly, condemned and burned before a watching crowd. His path did not end there. It turned inward, away from scrutiny. On his estates in Brittany and the Loire Valley, Gilles de Rais began to shape a private world. Public duties diminished. Ceremonial appearances grew rare. In their place came construction, modification, sealing. Chapels were altered for solitary use. Corridors were closed to servants. Rooms without windows were set aside. Candlelight became constant, not for prayer, but for presence. Night ceased to be a boundary. Men were brought into his household whose learning lay beyond accepted doctrine. Clerics who spoke of invocation rather than confession. Figures who promised access to hidden forces, to knowledge unbound by royal law or ecclesiastical order. In a century steeped in superstition, such pursuits were not unheard of. What distinguished Gilles was the scale at which belief met unchecked power. Whispers spread that he believed innocence carried weight, that purity could be broken, consumed, or offered for favor. Some claimed he sought knowledge. Others believed he pursued reassurance. Still others insisted desire alone guided him. Historians would later debate these motives, but the pattern that followed could not be dismissed. Children began to disappear. Not seized violently, not taken publicly. Boys were drawn in quietly. Orphans offered food and shelter. Choir boys invited for service. Sons of servants sent on errands that ended at castle gates. They were seen entering his lands, passing beneath stone arches that closed behind them. They were not seen leaving. Complaints formed slowly. Gilles de Rais was not easily accused. His rank discouraged challenge. His wealth silenced suspicion. In villages near his estates, absence became familiar. Mothers counted sons more carefully. Fathers avoided questions. Roads grew quieter, not from fear of bandits, but from loss. Inside the castles, certain rooms followed no household logic. Chambers without windows. Doors barred from within. Floors scrubbed until stone lightened from wear. Wax smoke lingered in the air, heavy and sour. These were not rooms of sudden violence. They were rooms prepared in advance. Time inside these walls moved differently. Days lost distinction. Night became preferred, not only for secrecy, but for control. Candlelight erased edges, softened stone, reduced the world to what stood within reach. Outside sounds faded. Inside everything slowed. According to later testimony, preparation mattered above all else. Disorder angered Gilles. Suddenness disrupted the structure he required. Candles were replaced before their flames weakened. Doors were checked, then checked again. The waiting itself became part of the act. Waiting established dominance before anything else occurred. The children were kept apart from one another. Isolation prevented resistance, but more importantly, it erased comparison. Without voices to mirror fear, fear turned inward. Servants who assisted were instructed to remain silent and obedient. Some later claimed they did not understand what they were facilitating. Others admitted they understood enough to be afraid. The presence of ritual framed the violence as necessity rather than impulse. Gestures were repeated. Words spoken blurred into sound. Movements were performed not for speed, but for order. Gilles was said to observe closely, correcting when sequences were disrupted. Control mattered more than outcome. The act had to unfold correctly. The murders followed familiar sequences, the same order, the same preparation, the same silence afterward. Repetition stripped the acts of urgency. Habit replaced hesitation. This was not frenzy, it was routine. Whether driven by belief, desire, or erosion of restraint, remains unresolved. What remains is that the killings continued. Occult practices were woven into these acts through confession and accusation. Latin phrases spoken without clarity of meaning. Symbols traced, erased, retraced. Attempts to summon favor, protection, or knowledge from unseen forces. Some chroniclers insisted demons were invoked. Others argued these claims reflected the court's need to frame incomprehensible crimes within religious language. Gilles himself acknowledged seeking something beyond human satisfaction. Afterward, the rooms were restored, floors scrubbed, candles extinguished one by one, implements removed, no haste followed. Only restoration. Silence resumed its place as the dominant condition. Whispers later claimed that Gilles recorded nothing, trusting memory alone. Others insisted notes were made and destroyed. No physical records survived. Only patterns reconstructed through testimony. This absence of documentation deepened the horror for contemporaries. The crimes existed almost entirely without trace. As the years passed, repetition took its toll. According to some accounts, the acts no longer satisfied whatever need had first driven them. Restlessness followed. Frequency increased. Rituals expanded, but did not resolve the emptiness they were meant to address. Power did not diminish desire. It amplified it. Those within the household lived under constant uncertainty. Favor shifted without warning. Punishment was unpredictable. Loyalty was demanded, not earned. Servants disappeared. Questions ceased. Fear settled into routine. The castles functioned as closed systems, detached from external morality. Architecture, hierarchy, and silence worked together. Within these walls, Gilles' authority was absolute, unchallenged by law or conscience. Only when his fortune collapsed did scrutiny follow. Excess drained his wealth. Lawsuits mounted. Creditors pressed claims. Clergy filed complaints that could no longer be ignored. Parents spoke more openly of missing sons. Once accusation gained momentum, it advanced rapidly. The trials were exhaustive. Ecclesiastical judges recorded confessions, some extracted under threat, others delivered with unsettling calm. Gilles admitted to murder, to corruption, to acts condemned by both church and crown. He spoke of repetition, of habit, of acts performed without reflection. Whether these admissions reflected truth, coercion, or resignation remains debated. The consistency across testimonies disturbed even seasoned judges. The number of victims was never fixed. Estimates varied widely. Medieval records lacked precision, but contemporaries were stunned by the scale suggested. This was not an isolated crime. It was a system sustained by authority, wealth, and prolonged silence. His execution was public by design. Rope ended his life. Fire erased his body. Secrecy was stripped away in death. His titles were revoked, his lands reclaimed. His name transformed into warning rather than lineage. Joan of Arc remained a distant contrast. Her image purified by martyrdom, his corroded by repetition. Both shaped by belief. Only one used belief to destroy repeatedly. Stone endures where memory fractures. Castles remain, emptied of purpose. Within their walls lingers a question no confession resolved. When power isolates, faith bends, and silence becomes routine, how long can evil repeat itself before the world accepts it as normal?